Bobby Curtola. Bobby, it's great to see you,
What do
man.
you say, Don?
Great to have you. Suffice to say that you're in 3 Hall of Fames. You're in the RPM Hall of Fame, the Rockabilly Hall of Fame, the Coca-Cola Hall of Fame. You did the first jingle.
I did, for
You
Coke.
did the first jingle. You were the first Canadian to have a gold record. You actually set up there was no touring route. When you started out, you set up that touring route that everybody does right across
On the
Canada.
coast-to-coast side, yeah.
Yeah. So really the word pioneer.
Well, you know, you don't think that at the
No,
time.
at the
but
time it was your life, but
it was my life, and thanks to the DJs and all of the markets. Like we had our Dick Clarks in Winnipeg, Regina, Saskatoon, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, of course Ontario with Chum and all the boys, and CKY, and all of the little towns too. So, you know, those communities supported guys like us, and as a Canadian that sounded enough like all the other Bobbies, Frankies, and Johnnies, they played my records, and eventually I got to tour to all of the different.
Maybe they sounded
cities.
like you.
Well, I don't think
Maybe
so.
Bobby Rydell sounded like Bobby
Oh,
Curtola.
boy. You know, we all worked together years later, and they're all good friends of mine.
Well, it's an interesting story you told me off camera about you and Bobby Vinton.
Yes.
You want to share that with us?
Yeah, let's do it.
The Bobby Vinton story.
Well, we actually started a tour in New York at Palisades Park together in the 60s, around 63, 64. And it was the beginning of the tour, and we were launching our record, doing all the promo stuff. He had Roses Are Red out. I had Fortune Teller out on the charts. And great friends, Bobby, and similar soft sell song singer. And what happened was, by the time 3 months ended up, we were crisscrossing on the road together. Bobby and I meet, and I told him, I says, Bobby, listen, I don't know how to tell people, but I keep telling them I'm not the guy that sang Roses Are Red, but they keep saying I am. So I don't know about you, but I'm signing your autograph and saying it's me. He says, Curtola, what do you think's happened to me? I can't convince them that I didn't sing Fortune Teller. So to hell with it, I'm signing Bobby Vinton. So we shared that wonderful memory in those early days together, and we're still great friends.
And you guys are still friends?
Yeah, very good friends.
Right.
As I am with Chubby Checker and a lot of Freddie Cannon, all those good old boys.
Sure. Well, let's backtrack a little bit. So your first record was made at a radio station.
Radio station in 1959.
Wow.
Recorded while the network
That
news
was hand in
on.
hand?
Hand in hand with you. I've been waiting all night long just to tell you I was wrong. Always wanna walk alone, hand in hand with you.
That was written by the Hurden Brothers?
By the Hurden Brothers.
Right. Now that record was not the one that really broke you though.
No, but it was the first one that started the airplay for us, and in the city of Winnipeg in Canada, that record was the biggest selling single up until the Beatles.
Now, explain this to me. How did you record it at a radio station? What was the?
Well, when the network news was on, they pushed the switch for the Toronto feed, and while the Toronto feed was on, Bill Semnick, who is the engineer in Thunder Bay, would record us. And in those days, all of the mics from the studio would go into the board on the channel, and out of the back of the board came one cord into an Ampex tape recorder. So if you didn't get the mix right, you had to redo it.
So it was live off the floor?
Live off the floor.
Wow.
And we just caught it. And I tell everybody the harmonica solo in that first record is what sold all those records. And thank God for large Italian families, Don, because all of my relatives bought a copy each and put Bobby in.
Did you have to record that in 60-minute increments, obviously, but did you record all at once, or did you go back in over?
No, we couldn't remix, so we'd have to keep every take, and then we'd listen to the day's take. So we started to record this in November, and it took us about 2 weeks to get a mix that was good. So we'd go in around 6 o'clock every third day, like Tuesdays and Thursdays, I guess.
Because you couldn't go over because the station was starting.
That was it.
You couldn't say, let's book it for another hour.
No, they flicked the switch and we were gone, even if it was in the middle of a take.
And what label was that on?
On our own label called Tartan Records.
And so that's another first you did.
Well, before the Beatles, I was lucky enough to have a third of the record company, the publishing company, and the touring company.
Nice.
And this is what people like Beyonce and the hip-hop guys do today.
Sure.
Most of the artists.
So you actually started that?
I did. I didn't start it, but I was lucky enough to share in the revenue. And actually, it was a good thing because I saw how marketing worked, and I saw how they aggrandized the truth a little bit.
And you learned the deal.
Yeah, I did. But
so you were privy to all that was coming in. So you knew the financial end of it as well.
I did. I learned by seeing it work.
Now, how old were you during all this?
I just turned 16 when my record was released.
You're still in high school?
Yeah, I was first year of high school. It was amazing.
And you have a band in high school?
I was a part of the band because of a girl that remembered me singing at the rink
The roller rink.
Not the roller rink, the skating rink in the
Okay.
winter.
Okay.
And they used to put me in the middle when the rink shack manager, the guy who put the stove
Yeah.
on, he'd say 15 minutes, and we'd all talk, and then I'd be in the center. I'd be whipping them off, and they'd be calling the songs. Whoever's turn it was to go off had the right to call the song, and I'd sing it because I had a ball.
Oh, okay.
So she remembered this and asked me to be a part of the band that was putting the performance on for our form in grade 9. And it was Brian Merritt and the Country Wheels, and I was the backup singer, and they let me sing one song, and the kids went crazy.
Wow.
So we played this school sock hop, and Brian was such a guy. He says, this is great. This is working. So when we're Brian and the Country Wheels, we'll keep the country sweaters on.
Sure.
And when we're working with you, Bobby, we'll call ourselves Bobby and the Bobcats. He gave us the name, and we'll wear the turtlenecks.
So who were you listening to back then?
Richie Valens, Buddy Knox,
Okay.
Party Doll, Buddy Holly for sure.
Yeah.
And actually, Buddy Holly, we were going to go and see Buddy Holly's performance just south in Wisconsin there.
Yeah.
But the weather was so bad, all of us that were intending to go were afraid to drive. because
February in Thunder Bay
was bad.
Yeah.
Well, that wind, when it's a storm like that, Don, the wind off the lake, because there's no resistance, the road is absolutely
Right.
black ice, and a lot of people have died on that road. So
Wow.
we heard the news the next day. We were
What
just
station would you
overwhelmed.
have heard this rock and roll on? Would you have heard it out of Thunder
In my
Bay?
younger years, what was amazing is WLS Chicago.
Yeah?
Dick Biondi, his theme song was "On Top of a Pizza." I'll come, he was just a character, right?
Yeah.
So we'd hear him beaming from Chicago right up over the lake into Thunder Bay. So we heard all of the latest hits, and I got to copy them. Right, I had a good memory, and I loved to sing ever since I was a young guy.
So that was your influence, was listening to Chicago.
Chicago was Dick Biondi, and I got to work with them in later years when I had the hit records, and actually brought them to London, Ontario for a huge concert.
Oh, nice.
Sold it out, and
Yeah.
what a wonderful man.
So tell me about Fortune. Fortune Teller was the one that really actually broke you internationally and
Yes,
got you out of the domestic scene and got you into the States.
yeah. And what happened was, thanks to a guy named Red Robinson in Vancouver,
Yes.
who was playing the record. And you have to realize, in those days, the business was regional. We actually drove up to the radio station
Yeah.
with records in our trunk and
Yep.
tried to catch the guy's show while he was on the air and bring a couple of records
Sure.
and see if he'd like him or if he'd play them.
Yep.
Because those days, those DJs were interactive with the fans. They
Yeah.
were talking about all the time.
They were stars.
They were bigger stars than us,
Yep.
Don. And
Yep.
they introduced us to their fans, and if we were lucky, we were
Yep.
the common denominator across the
Nice.
country. But it was an interesting time. Fortune Teller, thanks to Red, the song went to his friend in Seattle, who then sent a copy of it to his friend in Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
When it was #1 in Hawaii, we were transshipping plane loads of records.
you
into
wouldn't have
Honolulu.
enough press, would you? Wouldn't you have to?
We didn't. We were Russia. We sent them
Wow.
everything we had, and we kept sending them in. And Delphi Records got a hold of
Sure.
us, with it being #1 in Hawaii. I went in for a show, met Don Ho for the first time. and
Nice.
yeah, it was a big deal.
So you would have had those pressed in Smith Falls.
Oh yeah,
So you would have had to rush orders out of Smith Falls to
that's
get them to the States.
Quality Records.
Wow.
It was incredible how it worked. Those
Where
days.
was it recorded?
It was
Fortune-
that song was recorded in Nashville, Tennessee. That's
Ah.
Floyd Kramer playing the piano on it.
In Studio B.
Studio B,
At RCA.
unbelievable. Studio B, the magic. And I tell everybody the vibrato on my voice in those early records. I told Don it was fear. I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't believe I was singing with those people. I mean, Niederker singers, Jordan Ayers, Boots Randolph, Grady Martin,
Bobby Moore.
Bobby Moore. Oh, it was endless.
So you had the A-Team.
Harmon on the drums.
Oh man, so you had the A-Team.
I had the A-Team. Unbelievable.
Now,
They
this is
just-
Studio B
Studio B.
in Nashville. Now that studio was built for Elvis.
Yeah.
That's why Chet built it. So did you ever run into Elvis at those
I
studios?
did, but when Elvis was recording, I could never get Bobby Moore and all the guys, right? So I'd have to sing in the morning. You know how tough it is for an
Oh,
artist
yeah.
to wake up and try to warm up. So I'd get
Yeah.
a morning session, maybe a noon session, but they never wanted to go late because Elvis was all night, right? They
Yeah,
had to rest
yeah,
because
yeah.
they were going all night with him.
Wow. That
Yeah, I
studio's
was-
still there. It's still
Still
there.
there.
It's being used now as a classroom.
Yeah.
But the studio is still there.
Yeah,
I went
I'm-
and told the guy doing the tours. I said, from now on, Canadian tours, mention to them that Bobby Curtola recorded here.
All
So
the
he-
hits?
So he will.
Oh, that's
Anybody
thank
from
you,
Canada
Tom.
visiting Nashville will
Yeah.
know that Bobby Curtola recorded
Well, that was, I mean, Bill Porter was magical. Him and his assistant.
Yeah.
I mean, the way you see, when we were mixing songs, we were all there recording it live. And if something wasn't going right, they cut the take right away.
Yeah.
We always got a minimum of 3 to 4 songs per session. the boys under, they promised
Yeah,
us they'd get
yeah,
it there.
yeah.
And if something was complicated, we'd end up with 3, but most often 4. And these guys cut them in like 1 or 2 takes. Most of the hits were cut in less than 5 takes.
Wow.
All of them, actually. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
crazy how it went, though. Those guys were so damned incredible.
So after-
but Bill Porter, man, was he
Did you
awesome.
record a lot in Nashville after that?
Mostly everything
Okay.
we did. I tried Cincinnati.
You did one in Minnesota as well, I think.
Minnesota. I did.
Which
yeah.
one did you do in Minnesota?
Call me baby, honey baby.
And the reason you did that is you were
Coachella.
on the road, and that was the closest studio
Yeah.
to get to, and you needed to do it. There was an expediency issue, wasn't there?
Well, there was with Fortune Teller, because when we recorded Fortune Teller, I wanted to add the tell me, tell me, tell me.
Yeah, yeah.
The pickups into the bridge,
Right,
and
okay.
they wouldn't let me do it at the session because we ran out of time.
Yep.
So on the way home, because we had driven down from Thunder Bay,
Yeah.
Fort William, I convinced them to stop into the studio in Minneapolis. And I got the tell me, and I doubled the bridge.
Nice.
Will we meet? on
Okay,
a
so that was actually
corner?
cobbled together.
Yeah.
Which was not unheard of in those days.
Yeah,
That
unheard
wasn't
of.
done.
It was a separate track that was remixed into the final master.
Wow.
So the Nashville studio track
Yeah.
is missing the pickups,
Of course.
because that was on a stereo mix that
So
they,
we've done a 1/4 inch and just wow.
yeah. So it's interesting how they did it then,
Now you ended up in England.
Yes, I got lucky with our records. I went over there
Yeah.
on the Decca Ritz label with a guy named Bunny Lewis.
Yep.
And Bunny was a big time promoter. Decca Ritz, he had his own sub label on Decca. And he picked me up, Don. And you know Richie Rich, the cartoon?
Yeah.
You know that Rolls Royce he's got that's
The
open?
gold plate and everything.
Well, yeah, and the driver's in the open. It's like, and the back is car. That's the car he gave me for our tour. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. Like, here we going all over England, Scotland, and I'm.
So you were
showing
touring
up.
there. You actually toured.
I
over
was
there?
touring, promoting my record over there.
So your record was big in
yeah,
England.
I was actually on the Ed Sullivan Show over there. Was a show called Thank Your Lucky Stars.
Right.
And I was privileged to be on that show, and they'll love this. So there I am on the show. It's like the Ed Sullivan Show. And I'm got my jacket, I'm singing my song, and all the fans are screaming outside the door. And my manager, BJ Hurden, we're curious, who they waiting for? I said, can we wait to see? Because we didn't know.
You wanted to see them too.
I wanted to see who the hell it was, right? So there, all the guys, all of the big stars are leaving the building. And Tommy Toon was the last one,
Yeah.
so we figured it was him, right? And they're all really, these are great people in England. No wonder the English sound hit so hard.
Yeah.
They're so talented and beautiful people.
Oh, yeah.
So guess what? After everybody leaves, they're still there. My manager looks at me and I look at him and say, holy, they're waiting for us. So now they're trying to sneak me off the back lot. Where this
wow.
television station is and show, it's also a huge movie lot in the
Yeah.
northern part of England, on the border of Scotland and England. And I think it's Newcastle up there.
Yep.
So now they're taking me across the lot quite a ways, and they figure they're going to get me out the back lot, right? So, you can see it like the Three Stooges, right? We open the outside gate, look around the corner, nobody's there. Here comes the limo. The Richie Rich
Yeah.
parks across, we're looking, nobody's there. Soon as we set our foot on the street, everybody I got to the middle of the street and that was it. Now all the girls want a souvenir.
Yeah, like hair.
But
or
honest to
clothes
God,
or-
I'm Italian, and it was such a thrill. You have no idea. And my managers got me under the arm, dragging me back like this. They're in the car. The guy's worried about his paint job, right?
Were you scared at any point?
I was, but then they wanted to kiss me and hug me. It was wonderful.
How old were you then?
I was, 19, I guess. 19, yeah. And so he dragged me in the car, and they're shooing the girls out of the car.
So this is before
Oh,
everything had
what
really
a thrill.
broken in England.
Yeah,
Like
this
the
was
Beatles
on the
and-
tour.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I met the Beatles. They were playing an engagement there. I met them
Okay.
going into a radio show. We did a radio show. Can't remember the gentleman. He was a big time radio guy. He was an older fellow, but he was so respected, like an Arthur Godfrey of our day here.
So who was on the bill with you? on these
those
tours?
days, it was just me. I
Okay.
played all of the dance halls, and then I showed up at the clubs. And in those days in England, especially in London, the bands would play maybe 4 locations a night. There was a full setup of equipment in each place.
Yeah.
The guys would go in, do their hour show, or an hour and a half, and then they'd take off on a break to the next place. The other band would show up and set up. And the band I was working with, I followed them around to sing my song. So I sang 3 songs in their set, and it was fun.
So
It
did
was
you
really
see, was
great.
Del Shannon there at that time?
Who?
Del Shannon?
No, I didn't see him at
Okay.
that time. But
Yeah.
what I did see was I actually worked with a couple of the guys from the Dave Clark Five
All right.
in Scotland, actually.
They were club musicians at the
They
time?
were club musicians playing the circuit, and they were working in a couple of my shows. And I actually co-starred with them at Maple Leaf Gardens. It was supposed to be the Beatles.
Nice.
If you look at Harold Ballard's book,
Yep.
it's in his book. When the Beatles played the Ed Sullivan Show, they were supposed to come and play Maple Leaf Gardens, but they were such a success that they moved them to Washington State for that big show. And who came in to do the performance was the Dave Clark Five. And here are my buddies. I couldn't believe it.
So the bill was really the Beatles and Bobby Curtola.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I had co-billing with them.
And how was Dave Clark? Were they good to work with?
Oh, Dave Clark Five were wonderful. What a band. The manager wanted to get me out. It's a funny story. Guys at the back of the stage going like this because I opened the show.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you a little trivia. My uncle Benny White was defenseman for the Red Wings at the time when they won with Del Vecchio and Gordie Howe.
He won three Stanley Cups.
They did.
Yeah.
So there's Gordie Howe in the front row with my uncle watching the show. I couldn't sing Gordie Howe, but it worked. What a show that was. It's in Harold Ballard's book.
Well, there really is, with Bobby Curtola, 6 degrees of separation. Everybody you talk to and a musician has a Bobby Curtola connection or a Bobby Curtola story. The Guess Who.
Oh yeah.
Tell us that.
Well, the Guess Who were my band. In my days, my original band never wanted to travel with me, so I went as a single artist, and I'd pick up bands all across the country. So I actually had a chance to play with, the Little Caesar and the Consuls and all of the different bands. What's the guys out of Ottawa?
Oh, the Esquires.
Yeah, the Esquires. I mean, everybody, and it was great but I was lucky with the hit records, and I was always trying to help them get a shot too. Like once you got
once you're in the door.
Right. It's what makes the difference. But with the Guess Who, we did this Western tour and it sold out. We were picked as the most recommended artist.
What lineup was that though? That wasn't
This
Burton
was at the
time.
Corral. No, Burton wasn't there. It was everybody without Burton. Chad Allen,
Randy, Jim Cale,
and Peterson.
Yeah.
The boys, right? And we needed a piano player because Fortune Teller was a hit right at that time. So I said, we got to audition a piano player. So this is a true story. Chad said, okay. I went to Winnipeg with them. 2 top guys. The other fella I never got to see because I saw Burton playing with his band, the Deverons.
Deverons, yeah.
I tell you, Don, I had goosebumps.
Yeah.
This guy was so incredible then.
Yeah.
He was just phenomenal.
Wow.
And of course, the rest is history.
Yeah.
I never got to tour with them after that because my producer, Jack Richardson, took them on and promoted them on Nimbus 9, and the rest is history.
Which segues us right into the Coca-Cola thing. That happened through Jack, right?
Yeah.
How'd that happen?
Well, Jack was the agency guy, musical agency guy for McCann Erickson at the time that had the Coca-Cola account. And we brought a demo of the commercial back to Canada and presented it to Coke. They wanted to do it, and they put Jack on the deal with us, and we went to Jack and really got it right, thanks to him. And Jack did my first album. I mean, wonderful history with Jack. I love him. And his son Garth is an incredible producer too.
Right.
Yeah, good family stuff. But that Coca-Cola commercial, that's a real...
Well, after you did that, then everybody started doing it.
Yeah,
JB and the Playboys did it out of Montreal.
Yeah.
Did the Guess Who do one?
Yes, the Guess Who did one too.
But you opened the door for that as well.
Well, only because it was our idea.
Yeah.
And it was the first time that anyone had made a commercial sound like a top 40 record in the world.
Now, did you do that as a buyout, or did you...
Oh, no, that's the great story. Because Coke wasn't too sure how it would work, right?
Sure.
And they didn't want to trap themselves in a situation that they couldn't get. So we said, well, look, we don't want to hurt anybody here. Let's do it on a royalty basis. If you use it, we'll all pay. And if you don't, then just let it die, So we got it all done, and they put it out, and it took off like a hit record. It was one of my hit records. I gave more bottles of Coca-Cola away.
Wow.
To this day, fans still bring them.
Really?
To the show. Yeah, unbelievable.
So you got paid every time it got played?
Well, because we did a royalty deal, they actually paid us millions of dollars there because what happened was that because of what we did, and Coke's The Real Thing came from a song of ours called The Real Thing.
Right.
So that was another transition for them, and that led to I'd like to teach the world to sing. But those first 2 were us.
Yeah.
And after our deal, everybody else was on a straight buyout. They were taking a chance.
The accountants got involved, did they?
Oh my God. But you know what? It's true, you know, Don.
Yeah.
If you don't know what not to do,
Yeah.
it usually works. And
Yeah.
you got to be kind.
You
It's
don't
not-
overthink it that way.
Well, don't overthink it, and don't think everybody's out to hurt you.
Yeah.
Like, try to do things that'll work for everyone, right?
Right.
And at the end of the day, they made it right. I mean,
Yeah.
man.
So after the Coke, now we're going to get to the Vegas years.
Oh boy.
Now, how did that all happen?
So I was opening for a guy named Louis Armstrong. I had made the transition from the arenas
Yep.
to the nightclubs while the arenas were still full.
So you were
Most of them-
growing with your audience as your audience was growing
yeah,
up. You were
and we
growing
saw
up.
the writing on the wall.
Yep.
We didn't want to go till we self-destructed.
And the Beatles were already.
Well, the groups were already happening
Yeah,
with me,
okay.
and I was still filling every place. I was
Yeah.
filling them.
You
in
still do.
64.
Today you
God.
do.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Who thought?
Yeah.
You know, but we made that transition, and one of my first engagements in the nightclub business was with Louis Armstrong. I was his opening act.
Wow.
And he liked me for some
Wonderful
reason.
world.
Yeah, I was so nervous, Don. Had the white suit, and of course,
Yeah.
The
But how did they
audience-
hire you? How did that happen? That they?
somebody patched me up. They had a chance to get the top teenager, and
Yeah.
they were looking for audience appeal, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And somebody put us together. I don't know who my management did that.
Did you audition for this gig?
No,
or?
no, they just put me there.
They put you there.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was great. And so he'd be there every night, pat me on the butt before every show. He came, give me a smack on the
Wow,
butt, and
eh?
said, "Now, kid, just get out there and be yourself." His way, I can't talk.
Yeah.
But I was nervous because there's the parents. In an arena environment, you see the kids. Everybody
Yeah.
else is far
And
away.
they're all
but
screaming.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if they're up close like that with their parents, it was nerve-wracking for me.
Wow.
But it worked, and when
How
Howard
long were you in
Hughes-
Vegas then? Did you have like a steady engagement there?
Well, what happened was Howard Hughes bought all those hotels, wanted Louis in act, and Louis' management said, "We're with this kid that Canadians love him, and if he's this popular across the country, he'll put a lot of people in chairs, right?"
Yeah.
So that was the reason we were invited down, and I met with Walter Kane, with Louis' management, my management, and the junket operator.
So you did that for a while. You stayed down for a couple
Oh,
of years.
30 years.
30 years. Wow.
30 years in Las Vegas.
And did you not buy a property in Vegas?
Yes, a few.
Oh, nice.
I still got. Well, I sold the other ones, but I
Yeah.
still got my place in the golf course there.
So you still go there just to get away?
Oh, I love it there, Don. It's-
Yeah.
You know what? I tell everybody, Las Vegas, the best deal in Las Vegas is valet parking. You can show up with whoever you're with and look like a big shot for $3 to $5. That's it. They give you the ticket, say yes, thank you, Mr. B, or
Yeah.
Mr. C, or Mr.
Now, was this
G.
before or after your TV shows?
This was during my TV show.
So tell us about that, because you were hosting a TV show.
Yes, I had After 4 and Shake Rock and Roll,
Okay.
and.
So did you have artists from all over the world on that
Well,
show?
I
or-
did, and I did. We had guests on Shake Rock and Roll. After 4 was a lot, mostly me and the
Okay.
teenage thing, half hour.
What was that? Was that were you doing hits of the day, or were you
Yeah,
doing
hits
only
of
your
the
own?
day. My own
so like
self
the
and
hit
covering
parade
songs.
Like
Yeah.
During the hit parade, you were
Doing
doing
the
like.
hit
Oh,
parade
nice.
and our own songs, and
Yeah.
and we had an occasional guest on, but not like Shake Rock and Roll,
Okay.
bigger budget, bigger band.
So Shake Rock and Roll was like a variety kind of show.
It was, but After 4, Gordy had been one of the. Gord Lightfoot was when Red Shea were all of the crew on Music Hop those days, and Alex Trebek.
Sure.
Alex was
Yeah.
the host when I did the show, and Gordy launched into his own career
Yeah.
shortly after the show I was privileged to work with
Right.
Red and those guys on, and he was actually recording and really doing some great things, and I was stuck with my Vegas contract.
Sure.
My producer was getting nervous because
only one of you.
I couldn't get the only one. I couldn't get away. I was tired.
Yeah.
Like, I was just working so much, making
Yeah.
too much money for the management. That's what
Yeah,
happened.
yeah.
Sometimes they don't care.
Yeah.
But what happened was he said, I got a couple of singers that are really doing some wonderful things here in our country right now. And he named a couple of guys, and he mentioned Gordy's name. And he said, would you mind sharing some of the time with? I said, Gordy's the guy. I met
Yeah.
Gordy. He's wonderful.
Yep.
So
And real Canadian.
So I got a chance to be a little part of
So
that.
you-
Just like the Guess Who, like I got shaken all over going, that record.
So you got
promoted
Gordy
it.
to do that.
Well,
you
Gordy
recommended
did it.
him.
I did, yeah.
Nice.
But Gordy's just such a talent.
Oh yeah.
I'm so thrilled to call
He
him my
remembers
friend.
too, because last time we were together and we met him, he was,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been very good friend, and what he's done for Canada and the world, my God. I mean, it's a wonderful thing that we as Canadians can say that, these wonderful artists started here and launched their careers into all these other countries, but
Yeah.
they belong to the world now.
Yeah.
And guys like
Yeah.
Gordy and Burton, they're all here. They came home.
Yeah.
You know, they
Yeah.
still do all of these incredible things, but they came home.
Right.
So it's a pleasure for me to have shared
Yeah.
those moments together with them. I in no way take any credit for anything, but
Yeah.
having the
But
opportunity.
you and Tommy Hunter have a special
Oh
bond too.
my
and
God!
there's something to do with Tommy's bus, he told me.
Well, you know, we toured the theaters and everything else together, Tommy and I. So when I ended up with the bus, I had the bus first.
What did you have written on your bus, though?
Oh, Canada's greatest entertainer. Or something. I mean, that's the market, not me, the marketing guys, right?
Not your idea, of course.
Well, so you know, they're always. That's why I told you, right? A good marketing person will expand the truth enough so that you could maybe someday live up to it.
Yeah.
It can't be a complete lie,
Yeah.
but it's got to have some semblance of truth in it, right? So, and eventually, if you can make the success continue, you might be close to that spot.
Right.
But Tommy, he said, "What's this on the side of the bus? You forget about me?" I said, "What? You're not the only one." I said, "You're right. Excuse me. Let me correct that." And then he got a bus.
Yeah.
So the next tour, we're out there, and he's leaving me notes because I either played before him and his
Yeah.
band or after the band,
Yeah.
right? So if I was there first, I'd leave him the note on the picture,
Yeah.
or he'd leave me the note. Now the note that I get from him then the next time is, "My bus is bigger than yours." I can't tell you what I wrote on the picture.
And you went to Tommy's. Farewell show.
Yes.
On his 75th birthday, March the 20th.
March the 20th.
And you went to that show.
I did.
And he didn't know you were
him.
coming.
No, because they read an acknowledgement that I had sent to his management
Yep.
over the PA in as he was receiving all of his accolades and awards, and then they said, "And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bobby." He just about fell off the
Yeah.
chair, but you know, I have such respect for him
Yeah.
because of his principles.
27 years on the air.
My God, I mean, and the fans love him, right?
Yeah.
But he's always been such a gentleman, and you know, we look up to
Yeah.
people like that in our industry.
He has
And Tommy's-
respect.
He stood for something wonderful.
yeah.
And the fans, I mean, the history is right there. The fans.
He has
they
one
still-
other thing too. His bus is still 6
Yeah,
inches
I
longer
know.
than yours.
Don't touch that line, Don.
Yeah, he told me to tell you that your bus is. his
I
bus
know
is
he's
still
so
bigger.
bad. He looks so straight, but ladies and gentlemen,
Yes.
he's not. He's a character.
Yes.
He's fun.
Now, let's go back to Vegas for a bit. And there was another singer there who had a residency named Elvis. Elvis Presley. Tell me about your
Wow.
Elvis in Vegas.
stories. Oh my God. Well, I knew Elvis's people for many, many years. Guys that did the merch and all that stuff. And of course, in Las Vegas, we used a lot of the same musicians, and you know, we were like ships in the night there. We had some contact, but I'm not the kind of guy that, you know me. I don't hang around and bug anybody, right?
Yeah.
It's I know everybody they want their privacy,
Sure.
and so, you know, I got my hellos. We had the same engineers, so we got to talk a little bit and that. And when Vegas showed up, well, I had access, right?
Sure.
Actually, Bill Porter opened a studio in Las Vegas, and that's where Paul Anka and Odia Coates recorded "Are You Having My Baby?"
Right.
with Bill Porter in his studio in Las
Nice.
Vegas. Nice. Side story.
Yeah.
So here we are in Vegas, and
Yeah.
Elvis, of course, I'm going to the shows because I love him. And at the Hilton, if you go to the Hilton showroom, Las Vegas Hilton, the center, the stage, the row that's of booths, that's level with the stage. The first row is like they're like four-seaters, right?
Yeah.
And there's not a center booth. There's one each side of center.
Right.
So I always got one of them if I wanted to go to the show. Always, and he'd give me the sign, and he actually came to see me a couple of times
Wow.
there in Vegas at the Desert Inn, and you could always tell when he was coming because those days they had the small walkie-talkies. The guys that come in, and I know the top security guards because they'd give me the sign.
Sure.
I knew something was happening, right? And as soon as they shut the lights on the bar and took the bartender out, I knew it might be him, right?
Yeah.
Because they were making sure.
Was that intimidating, knowing he was
It
going to be
was
there?
intimidating, but the room was dark anyways, and he sat at the back. And January and February, sometimes those were very soft months.
Yeah,
So it wasn't
yeah.
a big crowd, right?
Right.
He'd always come and check when there wasn't a lot of people. And he had two of the most beautiful girls you ever saw.
Always.
Like you could never sit beside him, right?
Yeah.
So, and decked out like
a
red
king.
hair.
Like a
Yeah,
king.
The padded, never even. It looked like him in later years, but not then, right?
Oh yeah, okay.
But he'd stay for a couple of songs.
Wow.
What a guy, though. Jeez.
What
I
great
laugh
memories
because
to have,
everybody,
right?
you know, all the impersonators do the lip, but that was his show. That was his shtick.
Yeah.
He was a country gentleman.
Yeah.
Like he talked normal.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. It's interesting because our generation, it was all about the weekends and the music, because our generation, the weekends were ours. We were like the weekend warriors.
Yeah.
When Friday night to Saturday night came, it was going to the dance, right?
Yeah.
And in those days, if they couldn't dance to you, you were in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they ended up later gathering around the front to watch the show, but in the beginning it was always about dancing. So you had
Sure.
to be able to do the dance.
Well, that was the thing on Bandstand, wasn't it? I'll
Yeah.
give it 75 because
Well-
it's got a good beat and I can dance to it.
But that's it. That's how they judged the records. Like
Yeah.
that's how you were rated as a recording artist, if you had that quality.
Yeah, so when you did the Dick Clark Bandstand shows,
I was a nervous
you were
wreck.
telling me that the higher up on the charts your record got, the later on in the show you were?
No. Yes.
So if you opened the show, your record wasn't doing much. And
No.
then the more the record went up the charts, the more you went down.
That was your position in the show.
Right.
Because they'd read the chart of the area. Like we did a big show on Pontchartrain Beach in New Orleans.
Yep.
It was the top 22 artists of that year. And they had an order on sales.
Yep.
And I was just under number 10. So I went on, so all of a sudden now on this show, and you know who's in front of you? People like Brenda Lee, Roy
Yeah,
Orbison.
Jerry Lee.
You say, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Honestly, I tell everybody that the vibrato in my voice was fear.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe I was actually making
But you
these
only did
records.
like 2 songs, didn't you, in those days?
Yeah, those days, well, you sang your hits.
You sang your
or your
hits?
hit, whatever it was.
Yeah, so really it was just on the
Oh,
stage
yeah.
and off the stage.
But that's still a lot of pressure.
Oh,
Don.
gosh, yeah.
My God, I mean,
Well, yeah, you had to get that audience in 2 songs.
you
didn't
have to
have
get
a
'em.
night to...
And if you don't get them, it's not that they boo, but it's over and it's quiet, right?
They're waiting for the next act.
Well, it was funny because
Yeah.
I won't say the names, but because I love to perform, right? So after a series of shows, some of the guys I knew said, "Bobby, I want to go on before you." So
Yeah.
they pushed me on later, right? Because they didn't want to go after.
Didn't want to follow you. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Nice.
we don't think like that because we're all different,
Yeah. Yeah.
But for me, it was just I wasn't afraid
Yeah.
as much as excited to sing.
Right.
And I wasn't arrogant. I was hoping that it would work. But it was such a thrill. I mean, can you imagine
Oh,
as
yeah.
a young person
Oh, gosh.
living your dream? I mean, dreaming about making records. And
That was your reality, though, from the time you were 16.
that's what I'm saying. How the hell does that happen to somebody?
Your reality was the stage.
But the point is, ladies and gentlemen, when someone says to you that things are impossible, you tell them you know a guy named Bobby Curtola, and he proved that the impossible can happen. So if I can do it, you can do it.
There you go.
And it did happen, and it can.
That's a
if
good
you
message.
follow your dreams and your
Good
heart,
message.
it's amazing what will come.
Yeah.
It will happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank the legend Bobby Curtola for joining
Legend.
us today. Thank you, Bobby, for coming.
Thank you.
Great to talk to you
I
again.
appreciate the status, Don, but sometimes you never realize the road you're going to travel, and it took a long time to get here. And thank you for
Thank
what
you for coming,
said.
Bob. Thanks for stopping by.
God bless you. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Fortune teller, can you see what my future's going to